Oh, right. Well, we kind of had like an impromptu podcast today. That's right, on Live Life Better. We started out talking, you and I, Tim, and then my buddy stopped by, Parker, who is a true earth walker. The man has hitchhiked twice across the United States and is about to embark on a journey to South America in a van, just going.
Van life, baby. Hashtag.
Hashtag what?
Van life.
Van life. Yeah, that is a really popular thing these days, and I actually really think it's cool. Why? Why have these big house, expensive people, so caught up in I gotta own this, you could just live out of your van if you want to. There's no shame in that.
No shame in that game.
And why you gotta shame people at all? Why are we so terrible with each other? Like, oh, can you believe it? Oh, he lives out of his van. Oh, like, shut the fuck up. We're all human beings, okay? We're all just trying to figure it out. That guy's got to eat. That guy's deserves happiness too. That woman deserves happiness. Don't be so mean to other people. So, this guy's super cool. He's really. I find that every time I hang out with him, he rubs off on me in a great way. And, he's just a little bit more enlightened than some and less judgmental, which I really enjoy. The older I get, the more I enjoy hanging out with people who are not judgmental. Non-judgmental
awareness is a huge thing, man.
It's good. So anyways, check it out. Hope you enjoy. I think there's something with sound that's really healing. I know people talk about that, but people who are listening, we may not like think about that every day. Like sound, like vibration. Maybe we should get on somebody who like does really cool sound stuff or like, something like that. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. No, I dig the sound point, and when I'm like super relaxed and my voice is a little bit deeper, right now I have a little bit of a cold, but like when it's deeper, I totally feel the vibration, and I think that like moves energy.
It's calming.
It's very calming.
It's calming. Man, I'm going off to Bulgaria.
What's happening in Bulgaria?
I'm doing a movie in Bulgaria, based on a Jake Tapper's book called The Outpost.
CNN's Jake Tapper?
CNN's very own Jake Tapper.
And what's the book about?
The book is about 2009 in Afghanistan. 2 Medal of Honor recipients. I almost forgot the names. Clint Romeshay and Ty Carter. But it's much more than just them. It's about the 50 or so some odd guys and the 400 insurgent Taliban that they fended off in a just incredible firefight. It's a story about brotherhood. It's very interesting. It's really interesting. I've done a few war movies now, and I think we are like a common theme that we're always drawn to is sacrifice, right? Mm-hmm. Like sacrificing for your fellow man or your country. It's really interesting, but it's also on the same side. It's also so dark, It's like the dark side of humanity, like the things that we do to each other. It blows my mind every time I think about it, and I think about history and how we just repeat it all the time, and really, we're still doing things that we did when we were, Greek and Roman times, it's like we're still doing the same shit to each other.
Totally. And then everybody comes back with, not everybody, many people come back with PTSD and all kinds of, real trauma from that experience. I can't imagine having to do something like that personally, having to actually go kill somebody. I honor it. Don't get me wrong.
I definitely honor it.
In the instances where it needs to be done for
the greater humanity. Like when you're
absolutely
like, look at World War II. We all went to war to fight a terrible thing that was going on, right? People were getting slaughtered. Jews were being killed by the millions for no reason. innocent people being killed for no reason.
Right.
So we had to stand up in the face of evil to fight that. And that's, I think, that's what we still do in certain circumstances. Certain times I think wars are fought for other reasons.
Totally. And there's a lot of evidence for that. I mean, it's not even a secret anymore these days.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of special interests in
yeah,
military industrial complex, etc.
What's going on in Syria? I mean, that's
absolutely.
That's
Tucker Carlson actually had a really good piece on Syria that really kind of broke it down in a way that none of the other media did. Mm-hmm. And he was just basically, talking about what we're touching on. Is the motivation the freedom of the people, or is the motivation special interest oil?
Russia?
Right, exactly. Or from Saudi Arabia, pipelines and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, these heroes that go out and fight these battles on our behalf. I just hope that that the reasons behind it are honorable, especially for them,
Yeah. Oh, you were talking about when our government sends people in and they're dying for whatever cause it is. You hope that the big machine is doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, like weapons of mass destruction.
Sure.
We all went there because we were afraid, and it turns out that was all
a hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's bizarre. I see people who are affected by death when they're not even killing other people. Like when I see people who are exposed to, like a firefighter, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Their sensibility and their humor has become much more dark, and they're just affected. They're just jaded by life, right? And it's really interesting to see really innocent people and people who are really hardened by what they've seen in life, and they're two different outlooks of life, right? And that,
sure.
I think that's probably why there is such a disparity in this country of politics and people, and why people view one thing so strongly one way and so strongly the other way. It's so polarizing, and you're like, why is that? Why isn't there common ground? But then it's all experiences.
Yeah, we're all products of our experiences, and I think a lot of that has to do with tribalism, which I don't know if we've talked about it much on the podcast, but we talk about it a lot amongst ourselves.
Sure.
But, you're in a neighborhood and you want to get along with the people that are there, and you want your life to be easy, and your uncle believed this and your grandmother believes that and your sister believes this and whatever. But, I think that it's so polarizing in many instances because the media oftentimes will pay attention to the most dramatic thing, or the clickbait, the thing that will
get more likes, get
the most likes, but then also build the other side's insane. No, the other side's insane. No, the other side's insane. When in reality, I think the majority of people are reasonable.
Sure. I think, I don't know. It's really, it saddens me because we're all human beings floating around on this planet. It really saddens me when I think about how there's so many, I'm going to put these in quotes, so many reasons we hate other people and dislike other people and factions of people, but we're all the same.
Totally.
We are all just here for a very short time, and it's mind-boggling to me that so much energy can be expended on hatred and not on creating, right?
Yeah, and resources and money and
time
and attention.
Yeah, right. It's all the things that are products of evil, right? The scarcity of resources or money, right? All these things then cause us to act jealous, cause us to be greedy, to not share. It sucks, and it sucks because, I don't know. And I think you do develop different views as you go through life. Like, as you collect more things, right? As you get more stuff, then you want to hold on to those things. You want to hold on to that stuff, your crap.
Right.
Because that's all it really is. It's just stuff, things.
Totally.
You want to stockpile it and have more of it and more houses and more of this and it's mine. And then so you become
hire people to take care of that shit.
You gotta hire people to take care of it. Then you got to protect it. And that's where I think views change. Like when we're born, we're all just innocent, right? It's just like, hey, I just need food, water, like happiness, whatever, love.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It saddens me. It saddens me when I think about the world like that, and I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of people working towards it in their own way, and that's the unfortunate part, I think, is that a lot of the arguments are distractions from the mutual desire to improve things for everybody, but then it's like, oh, you get caught up on an issue, abortion or whatever the case is, and it's like, okay, well,
that's where we divide.
Yeah. And perhaps we're in alignment on policy or at least on the idea of improving lives for people, but then it just turns off because it's like, oh, I can't even talk to that person, they're insane. I can't even begin to understand how they could or could not be on this side of the fence,
Sure. I also think it's a product of like when people are really happy and healthy, they're living with a lot of endorphins. They're living happy all the time, right? If you're working out, if you're staying healthy, you eat well. When you're doing these things, you are a significantly happier person. And because of that, I don't think you dwell on these issues as much. That's just my personal experience. I don't dwell on them. I see them and I look at them and I think most of it's all insane that we're even having these discussions when we're floating in space.
Right.
So I think that's how I think about, like, I don't know, the more healthy I am, the more active I am, the less time I have in my day to even think about that, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then I got to go here and I want to create and I want to build this or I want to do that or I want to do this with my life. The less time I have for bitching, really.
Yeah.
People bitch way too much.
They do bitch a lot. And to your point, I think that step one in all of this is for each individual to be healthy.
Yes.
Because then you can think clearly, you have to have an appropriate amount of stress, but if you're overly stressed, then you're certainly not thinking clearly. And I've certainly got sucked into these rabbit holes before.
Oh, definitely.
And I thank you for pulling me out of them at times. Just kind of like, hey, buddy, what's...
Well, on the other side, I'm probably a little too laissez-faire about them, but it's also about education, right? It's
100%.
if the more healthy you are and the more you are educated about being more healthy and about eating better and not being a product of fast food America or whatever that, just the easy way, right? Because we're lazy as humans. We're lazy. We'll take the easy way out, but if you know, hey, this is going to help me live 20, 30 more years,
or even just improve the
time you are here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I think you will be a far happier person, and a far more. You won't even be thinking about half of these issues. Not to say that you won't think about any issues and have disagreements and see things in a different way, but you won't be so invested in them where they will consume your life.
Yeah.
Right? I see people who are so consumed with issues. And you're like, yo, that's your whole life. You're like letting this whole thing like dominate your life or expend all this energy. Like, you give people power over you when you let that happen.
Right.
When you Like if I let you affect me, it's so much, I get so worked up. I'm like giving you power over me.
Yeah. What are you doing with your energy? And are you making a conscious choice of where you're applying your energy? Is it coming from a place of self-sovereignty, or is one allowing another to interfere in that space and take it over? You know, I was getting into an argument with somebody the other day, and I'm like, why am I spending so much energy on this? They're not even here.
What was the argument
They haven't
about?
paid for this time. It was relative. I do estate management work, and it was more personal. It was my personal building, but I was just having a disagreement with one of the other members of the board, and I allowed myself to be caught up in that energy, and then I'm sitting there wasting time mulling over this, and
how do I get their upper hand on it? How am I going to say this and attack them here? And
right. And it's like, they didn't buy this time. Why am I giving them this time? It's not effective. All I'm doing is running around in circles in my brain.
Sure.
Sit down.
Losing sleep over it?
Yeah. Sit down, spend a half an hour focused on it, move on. You know?
It's hard for us to let go of things. Why?
So hard. I don't know. Is it ego?
It's definitely ego.
Right. You're not going to get the best of me, or
100% it's ego.
You know, or I think it should be A and you think it should be B, and
if we took the ego out of it, we would be, you'd just be able to go, okay, well,
yeah,
you know, I don't care.
Right.
Cool.
What's good for?
But what builds an ego? You know, is it the, you know, when we grow up, we see success and things we aspire to have, quote unquote. When I say success, right? Like what does that mean? It, you know, it's like, oh, like I want to be rich. I want to do this. I want to do that. You know, I want this. I want more of that stuff. I want the stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so then the stuff becomes like an identity for you.
100%.
You're like, oh, I got a bigger house. I need a better house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want this kind of place. I want this kind of car.
Yeah. I've got 5,000 feet. He's got 6. I need 7.
Exactly.
You know? I used to be very material oriented. I was the guy growing up that, you know, I'm going to live in a barn and have a Ferrari. You know, I mean, I'm a big car guy as well, but through many things, life experiences that changed. The death of Paul Walker was a big influence in my life, and really was the catalyst for a lot of change for me.
Why was he the first friend you had who really passed away?
I'd lost a lot of people actually in pretty traumatic and sudden circumstances, but that one was different, you know. He was more a part of my regular life. He had been very impactful in my life, period, you know. Mm-hmm. Pulled me out of working in the studios with Village Roadshow to go work with him, and, you know, just really changed my life in ways that I probably would not have done without his influence.
Mm. So the death of Paul, and then you decided to make a conscious choice to be less materialistic person?
I wish it was that clear cut. I was basically already kind of struggling with things in life and dealing with some depression and things like that. And then this was just kind of like the last straw that took me all the way down to the point of...
You had a bad breakup too, right?
That was prior to that, yeah.
That was prior to that.
Yeah, and that's a good example of getting caught on something. Why did I devote so much energy to that after the fact? It's like, fuck, Tim, move on, dude. Mm-hmm. You know?
Oh my gosh.
And that's ego and all the other things that we were talking about. So no, it really just, you know, it was an opportunity for me to reevaluate everything. So I went back and looked at all of my belief systems. Where did these things come from? Why do I believe it? Is it still serving me? How am I being influenced? What are my patterns of behavior? You know, I started a real meditation practice. You know,
with TM?
No, not transcendental. My understanding of transcendental is just, here's a word that you repeat. I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but you know,
your mantra.
Yeah, my approach to meditation is just try to turn off your brain by focusing your attention on your breath, and it's a lifelong cycle of recognizing, oh, I'm thinking again. Let's go back to my breath. Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking again.
Or I'm feeling anxious.
Exactly.
Ooh, why am I feeling anxious? Ooh, because I'm short of breath.
Right.
ooh, whoa, okay, let's slow down the
Downward
breathing.
spiral,
You
right?
know?
Yeah.
Then I'm anxious. Then I start treating people shittier. I start, you get to like a great exercise. I find, when you're in a rush, especially if you're living like in a big city, you go to a grocery store. You're in a rush, right? You're trying to get somewhere. You're trying to, pop in, do something. There's a line. Oh, okay. Well, this is going to affect my day. Right. This happens everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You get a DMV. There's a line everywhere, right? Everyone's trying to do the same humanistic things. It's like, okay, I can either choose to let my breath be short, get anxious, or I can slow down my breathing, take long, deep inhales and long, slow exhales. And I find, boom, knocks me right out of it. Well, you know what? Life, it's okay. It's all going to work itself out.
Yeah. I used to work myself up to the point of actually fainting in those situations.
Oh, really? Get slightly hypoxic?
Yeah, I wouldn't recognize that my breath was short.
Oh, like that? You had that much anxiety?
Yeah.
Were you taking any pills for it?
I was taking sertraline, I think it's called. It's a Zoloft generic.
And did you find you got off of them now, right?
I haven't still.
You still haven't got off?
I've been on it since I was 15 years old, and they put me on and said you should, you need to be on this for the rest of your life.
What fucking doctor said that?
Yeah.
Can we bring him in here and just slap him? Like,
yeah,
fuck you. If you're listening, fuck you. A 15-year-old, go fuck yourself.
Well, in that, I'm 42, so that was mid 90s at some point. So it's like, that was the knowledge. This was the new stuff. This was the cure-all back then.
And how many other kids do you think he put on fucking Zoloft?
All of them.
Depressed because they were going through a tough breakup in high school, or the girl didn't like him, or, he didn't, get asked to dance, or, like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And
that pisses me off.
And there was not the long-term research, of course, to understand the effects of this stuff. And it's addictive as hell. Probably psychologically and physically. I did try to get off at one time, and I was having literal brain zaps, like feeling electricity in my brain. Like, it was miserable. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just stick with it for a minute. So
I was looking at the screen and I realized I was scratching my balls.
That's all right. we won't release the video on this one. We'll keep the ball scratching to audio.
I was like, oh man, I'm on video and I just scratched my balls. Well, what's so funny about that is...
About ball scratching?
Well, ball scratching in general is women don't get ball scratching,
right?
Like, at all. They don't understand it. They may understand it because they've like lived with men, but they're like, why are you, get your hand out of your pants?
Yeah.
But they don't understand that we have two, I guess you'd call it 2.5, 3 bits and pieces that are sticking to each other. They've got to be readjusted. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just, there's going to be stuff going on down there. Daily.
A friend of mine is a Pilates instructor, and we went on a hike, and she was telling me how incorrectly I walk, because my toes are kind of kicked out, and I'm kind of more in my joints when I should have my knees bent and be engaging the larger muscle groups. So she was just pointing all that out. So then I started walking with my toes consciously pointed forward, and I was like, well, the difference is you don't have any balls.
Have you ever walked with balls? You might walk with your toes out too.
So it's trade-offs, What are you gonna do?
It's a trade-off.
So what's your role in this movie?
I'm playing Clint Romeshay.
Romeshay.
He's one of the
and this is Restrepo, basically. The story of Restrepo.
Very similar to Restrepo. I'm not going to say it's Restrepo because it's not. It's not. But it's an outpost called Outpost Keating, and it was one of these outposts that were it was put in a tactically not a great position that was we put our guys out there and in a pretty tough spot, and they were manned to hold down this outpost. It's a really tough story. It's tough material, but I think it's important. It's important to honor these soldiers, the ones who passed away and the ones who fought, and you know, to honor them through making a movie like this is really great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hope we can continue to honor the ones that are back home.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
we've
that's
got
also,
a lot of homeless vets, a lot of PTSD and suicides. I think there's 22 suicides a day.
Yeah.
By veterans and 40,000 homeless. I don't know. Forgive me if my numbers are incorrect, but you know.
No, it's
they're heroes, all of them, whether they have a medal or not.
Yeah, 100%. And these guys, you see too when I speak to the Medal of Honor recipients. That's you know what they say. At least Clint Romachet said that many times to me that this medal isn't for him. It's for everyone who served. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's so meaningful because it's about everyone. You know, whether you get a medal or not, it's you know you have done something you've sacrificed for us.
Absolutely.
So
and we are grateful.
I have a buddy here. I'm gonna try to pull him on. Let's pause for one more second.
Cool.
And let's pull him on.
All right.
What were we talking about before my buddy got here, Parker?
Fuck, we were last on the film. On the film.
We were talking about the film. We're talking about honoring the people who have done things for our country.
Yeah.
Because you know, a lot of times too, like people are in those circumstances. They show up. They don't have a lot. They're put into the military, right? It's like a last resort for them. Like, oh, I got to start something, and then they're forced to go to another country and fight for us.
Or that's the only way I can afford education, or whatever the case is. We have Parker here in the room now, by the way.
Everybody.
Parker has lived a pretty interesting life, I think. Parker's hitchhiked twice across America, the Americas, and about to go down to, actually, the bottom Americas, which is, by the way, did you know that that's actually considered America? It's South America. When people say that, I was like, no, it's not. I was like, it's not like America. And they're like, no, it is.
All the Americas, yeah.
It's the Americas.
Gotta hit
the
them all
Americas.
up.
Yeah. You're going to go south down for how long, do you think?
No definite time period, just until I get
until life finds a way.
Parker, get a little closer to the microphone there. So
but you are having a van built out right now. He's having a van built out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sprinter?
Yeah. No, not a Sprinter. Sprinters don't do well with the diesel down there. So getting like
why don't they do that well with the diesel?
It's dirty diesel down there, so it's high sulfur. So they've got like a warranty. All the energy emissions that are coming in with like all the cars. So the diesel trucks or the diesel vans now have like high something to do with
emission standards.
Yeah, high emission standards, and so there's something on there that once you put dirty diesel in, it's got about 60,000 miles until it stops working. So I figured, and your warranty is totally void if you go down there. So
is it really?
Yeah.
They say if you cross and then something happens.
If you put dirty diesel in your van, because maybe some places don't have it, but
there's zero dirty diesel here.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's all clean diesel.
They have to. Like North America has better standards.
We have all our standards. And I'm not quite sure if Mexico does. That's a big question, but I know South America just has crappy
dirty
diesel. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So what are you building?
So I'm building out a Ford Transit. It's a big, long, giant, tall Ford Transit. Yeah, and just after hitchhiking, I found I could only do it for about 3 months until like there was something that was just like, okay, sleeping outside in bushes and under freeways, like it just gets to a point where you're just like, okay, well, I need to get back to some sort of resemblance of, something. And so I'm hoping that the van can be that like thing that's just constant, where I can constantly be like relaxed and I don't get that other feeling after 3 months. So I can push it to say a year, 2 years.
You have a home base, huh?
Yeah. And if I like it, then, I'll try to ship it across to Africa after I'm done with Chile, and go over to, ship to Africa and drive it up through Africa, and, just keep pushing it to see how far you can go on it. But
so what's the trip? LA down the coast to Chile?
Yeah. I'm actually in Monterey, starting in Monterey, and I pick it up in Washington. So I'm not quite sure if I'm going to pick it up in Washington, maybe drive up to Canada and then cruise down. Originally it was to go up to Alaska and cruise down, but wherever I go, cruise all the way down to Chile, and just kind of no plan, no time period, just like keep my fingers crossed that I make it through Central America, and then just...
You're going to make it through. But that is like, it does take a very special type of person to go do what you're doing. Right? Like not everybody off the couch could just be like, okay, I'm going alone with my dog.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it takes baby steps. So like, first I backpacked a lot, and I tried backpacking alone. 3 days alone out into the woods, and that is in itself a baby step. And then from there, once you get comfortable with that, then hitchhiking is like, okay, well, I'm down to go hitchhiking by myself, and that's and never at one point do I ever think like, oh, I'm ready for this. It's always like, oh shit, this is not a good idea, but
it like pushes you past, right?
Yeah.
Does it make you grow?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Well, the idea is that you're never 100% confident. It's just like going up and giving a speech. You're always gonna be nervous, and that's a good thing to be nervous. So you don't want to be like, oh, I'm so confident, then you mess up. But the idea is you prepare as hard as you can. You do as much as you can to prepare, and then you just jump off the cliff, hoping you can fly. And if you can't, then you're gonna find out. But every time I've done it, I found that you learn how to fly on the way down.
That's great. Okay, so wait, hold on. Let's back up a little bit, just because I think the hitchhiking is pretty phenomenal. I've heard a lot of stories from you in the past, but I don't think I've heard like from the beginning to end. Because you did it twice, not once. You did it twice across North America. Yeah. You hitchhiked.
Yeah.
So the first time, how old were you?
The first time I think I was 23, and I was planning on going alone. I'd never hitchhiked before. So I didn't really know what to expect. And so I was in Coachella, and I was like, okay, I'm going to
At the music festival?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to try hitchhiking, back to the place we were staying at, this gorgeous house, and I was like, I'm going to try hitchhiking back to the place. And I was wearing a onesie for some apparent reason, like a monkey onesie. So, I mean...
That's not that odd at Coachella.
Yeah, I mean, it was, there's other festivals that you could have got picked up quicker, but it was some odd looks. But I got a ride back, and that was my first one, and that was about, 3 weeks before I left. And I'd actually, met a person at the Coachella the year before at the same house I was staying at. And I'd called him up just to see if he was going to Coachella this year. Be like, hey, look, are you going to be there? Like, had a great time with him and his buddies last year. And he said no, but I told him that this was my last hurrah before going hitchhiking. And he had just gotten done with a marijuana business and was like, dude, I had a horrible time. I need to get out of here. And he's like, I want to go hitchhiking with you. And I mean, I know the guy for like 3 days, and we had a great time. But like, I was a little bit skeptical. But at the same time, it's not every day somebody says I'll go hitchhiking across the United States. So I figured it was like a sign. So I said, okay, why don't we like meet up? And we met up for a weekend, got drunk, had a blast, and it's like, okay, let's do this. And he was, had been growing weed out into the middle of the wilderness all the time, so he's a big backpacker. So he brought all his stuff, I brought all my stuff. We ended up meeting up on the road, and we had a blast for 3 months. And
wait, so you left from Coachella, you left from California?
Yeah, I left from California and just walked. Actually, I left from my parents' house, and I it was weird. I actually moved all my stuff back to my parents' garage, and I remember sitting down and writing like a first blog post that I was just basically I made a blog to so that my mom would know what I was doing every day. I was hoping it would calm her down so she wouldn't call me every second. So like my first blog post, I'm like write, and then as I go out the door, I go upstairs to like say bye, and they're gone, and I can't get a hold of them. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna go without saying bye to anybody. So I just walked out my door. I remember the only people I saw were that we were getting the kitchen. My parents were getting their kitchen redone, and the workers came out and were like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Oh, I'm hitchhiking across the United States, the East Coast." And they're like, "What?" And they took pictures with me. Yeah, the workers. Yeah. And so then I just walked down. There's a road that's down by my house. It's like a Highway 1, and walked down there, put my thumb up, and yeah, the rest is.
So when you go, like, did you have money?
I mean, yeah, I think I had $1,000 for 3 months, and I mean, and I still had money when I got back.
You still had money when you got back.
Yeah.
You were able to live off less than $1,000 in 3 months.
Yeah, I think.
And you had what? You had some supplies.
$1,000 or $1,500, but I mean, food. I figured when I found it out, it was like $5 a day. Was like what
you could live off $5 a day.
I think it was even less at some points if I really like stretched it, because and then you could buy a beer within that, and
sounds impossible.
I know. How did you stretch that out?
You go to Walmart, and what's really interesting, and this is this is what I learned is that I thought I was a nice guy, and then when I was out there, I got to this point where people kept trying to give me money, and I didn't need money. You know, if I at the end of the day, I could always, you know, I had money sitting at home if I wanted to like get some, or for parents to call. You know, I have all kinds of backups. But people kept trying to force me money, like, hey, this is for you. And for a while I was saying, no, you know, no, I don't need it. I don't need it. Keep your money. But they would get so, like, they would get bummed. Like, it was like they were doing this and they didn't really care if I had money or not. It was like for them. And so I remember reading something, it was on those lines of like, you know, a gift is a gift for you. And you take the gift, you know, because it's not just for you, it's for the other person to be able to give this gift. So, when I turned over to that and I said, okay, well, you know, and people would come out of the woodwork, you know, and say crazy stuff like, you know, this is my last $20 bill. Like, I want you to have this. And I'd be like, oh, like, don't, you know? And they'd be like, no, I really do. And I'm like, okay, you know, and take it. And I would also give money to people that I would see that I would, you know, that needed money. I would also find people in the, you know, underneath freeways or couples that were, you know, trying to find jobs that just had horror stories. But I found that there's, that out in the U.S., there are people that I consider like angels, and they are always there. And a lot of times it's like you only meet them when you're vulnerable, when you're in the worst of it. And I found that a lot of times when I was in a place where I really needed help, when I was like, you know, because when you're hitchhiking, you have no control. You are completely in everyone else's arms. And you're hoping that the good of humanity will pick you up and usher you along so your journey can continue. And in that mindset, the people that pick you up in the worst of times, that even when I'm like, oh, I would never pick someone up. It's dark, it's rainy, and someone picks you up and it's just like the nicest person you've ever met. And you realize then like, wow, I don't even know what nice is. These people are just like next level. And I remember there's like, I remember getting picked up by this 16-year-old girl, and she had her boyfriend in the car. Boyfriend didn't say a word, and we'd already eaten. But I had this rule that if you get offered food, I would always take it. And she says, "Oh, well, you know, my family's having dinner. Why don't you come back with us for dinner?" And it's like, okay, fine. You know, we're in Wyoming. We go back. We're getting on dirt roads past trailer home. I'm like, oh shit, this is. And I'm with my buddy. We're gonna eat dinner at this family in a trailer park out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, and I'm like, hey, don't you think you should tell your mom, you know, you're 16, that you're bringing home two dudes for dinner that you just met on the side of the road? And she's like, no, she's fine. I'm thinking, what the heck? And we pull over this hill, and it's the most gorgeous 2-story house overlooking the mountains. And there's this lady up on the top on a rocking chair, kind of rocking back and forth, that no older than like 40. And she looks down and she goes, oh, there's my mom. And we get out, and I'm like waiting for this like weird, awkward conversation. And she looks up at her mom and she yells up, hey, I got 2 hitchhikers I brought home for dinner. And mom looks down and says, did you get the creepy vibe? And she's like, nope. She's like, okay, bring them up. I was like, wow, I can only imagine what my mom would say.
Little
my
you know,
sister brought home
they're
2.
bringing you home to eat you or something.
I know. It's like, I've seen this in a movie.
Yeah. That's what I'd be thinking. They're going to eat me.
Yeah.
They're eating us for sure.
I'm like, I'll put the lotion on its skin. Just don't hose me.
That's a bit more common in Wyoming, though, I think, right? Like a buddy of mine lives in Jackson, and they're always doing, you know, whatever adventure. You climb up here and ski down here, and then you end up far away from your car. So people are often picking people up.
Yeah, the hitchhiking vibe. It's the same in like Tahoe. Like the people around snow places, around ski resort areas, people get picked up a lot more often. And that's like, you know, it's one thing to pick up someone who's just like, you know, doesn't have a backpack on and is just cruising, and that's, you know, that's usually someone that's just working around the area. But it's another thing to pick up someone who has got a backpack that's like actually a traveler that looks like they're like, you know, you don't know who they are or what's going on.
Did you ever get stuck for a long time?
I got, I mean,
or just have to walk miles and
just
miles
a couple
and miles?
days would be like the longest. And I've definitely got stuck for a couple days when I was in Texas. Texas is just a weird place to hitchhike through. It's just, you meet some definite interesting people there. You know, and the thing is me being a male, you would probably 30% of the people that pick me up are gay, and in Texas and everywhere else, you know, it's it's great. You know, they pick you up. They're really nice, and they'll flirt with you or whatever. But you know, nothing. It's harmless. But when it's in Texas, they are so pushed into hiding.
Right.
That when they pick you up, it's a whole, it's.
I can finally let it out.
It gets weird. I had a guy ask me if he could play with me on the way up. I was like,
"What'd you say?"
Yeah.
Only for 5 minutes.
It's been a long trip.
It's like,
If you don't stop that, I'm going to ask you to stop again.
you have a hard bargain. And so anyway, so I was in Texas. It took me forever to get up to where I was going. I was trying to get to Alabama. 2 days later, I'm still on the same on-ramp. I finally just said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to walk to Alabama. So I got on the highway and I'm walking. I turn on, I'm like, I'm in Texas. I need some country music. Turn on the country music on Pandora, and this couple songs into it, I'm about a mile down the road, and Sweet Home Alabama turns on. And I was thinking, oh, this is my song, right? This is like, I'll be coming home to you. It's talking about Birmingham, and that's where I'm headed. And I was like, this is it. And right then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try hitchhiking. This is like a sign. And I turned around, and a car had already pulled over right behind me. And I was great. I get in this car, and it's an 8-hour-long drive. Or it's basically 8 hours for me to get to the place I'm trying to go. This car picks me up, and this guy's like, oh, yeah, I'm just going up here. You know, it's like 15 minutes away. And then after 15 minutes of talking with him, he's like, you know what? You sound like a really good guy. I'm actually going all the way past Birmingham up north. I can drop you off in Birmingham. It's an 8-hour drive. I just didn't want to sit in a car with someone I didn't know for 8 hours. So I was like, oh, this is a sign. You know, everything's just working out. Well, this guy turns out to be one of the most interesting rides I've ever got. He is a self-proclaimed quantum physicist. He is it's like you believe in Jesus, but you're Jewish. I don't know what the name of it is. But, and then also he is a conspiracy theorist nut. And he went down the path I have never gone. First of telling me if I had chosen Jesus as my savior, and telling me that I was walking in a battle between good and evil, and I was right in the middle of it with my backpack with my thumb up, and bullets were flying by my head. And if I didn't say Jesus was my savior, one of the devil's bullets was going to hit me. And I mean, like, there gets to be a time where, like, you know, when they talk about putting people in rooms and like mind, kind of like trying to convince them of something over and over, if you continually hit them with something, like mind games. Like, this guy, after 8 hours, I was like almost convinced that, you know, holy, like, maybe I do need to, like, you know, right now, like, praise Jesus, tell him that everything's like, but along that ride, he starts talking about aliens, and that, you know, Christians were fighting aliens at some point, and there's aliens down in South America that are using these colored lasers, and that they're using it to take blood samples. And now him and his buddy are trying to figure out why the color green is used in lasers to get blood samples. And I'm thinking, holy shit, you know, his buddy is a self-proclaimed quantum physicist too. So this whole time, as this conversation is just getting like wild, I'm trying to like ease it by making little jokes here and there. And before I'd gotten in the car, as I got in the car, he had been talking to someone about, he had just gotten in a fight with someone at the workforce because they said the Lord's name in vain. And and he got in this huge fight. And he told me, he said, don't say the Lord's name in vain. You know, this is an example of what will happen. If you do, I'll kick you out of the car, wherever we are. So as he's saying about aliens and lasers and Christ and all this stuff, and I'm trying to ease the conversation. At one point, he's talking about these aliens that have these green laser things going on, and I'm like, well, how do you know it's, you know, the green has anything to do with it? You know, if there's all these aliens, you know, you never see green lasers anywhere. So maybe like they're clear, but maybe there's this one crazy alien down there, you know, Fred down in Mexico, that's just like, I'm going to freak out some humans. And he turned his on green just so he could freak out some humans. And he's down there and he's like, yeah. And everybody else, all the other aliens talk about Fred, and they're like, oh yeah, Fred, he's just a goddamn retard. And right when I said that, he grabs my head. I realize it right away. Oh, no. He grabs my hair. This is a big dude. Grabs my hair and starts banging my head against the side window. And okay, so this is my second time hitchhiking. This is second round. As he's banging my head, the first thing is, oh, you know, F no, I'm getting out of here. Like, this is it. This is too much. This guy's, like, crazy. And then this voice kicks in, and this... do not know where it comes from, and the voice comes in, it's all calm. It's like, actually, Parker, you know, he told you that if you said this, he would kick you out of the car. And he's not kicking you out of the car. He's just banging your head against the window. And we're actually making really good time. We're going to actually make it on time to Alabama just like we planned. So, like, you know, you could act like a baby, or you could apologize to the man and let us get to our destination. And I remember hearing this and being like, what? And I like, you know, after he was done banging my head against the window, I looked at him and, you know, and he's all fired up, expecting, you know, me to come out with some crazy retort. And I remember saying, you know what? You did tell me not to say the Lord's name in vain, and I did say it, so I apologize for that. You know, and maybe we can restart this on good terms. And he looked at me all, you know, calming down after that, and he says, that just goes to show that, you know, the devil is close to you. I said, okay.
Like, how many more hours to
I know we had
Alabama
four more hours. I ended up buying the guy Subway at one point. Like, the guy was just, I mean, Jesus. I got out of that car, and my sister picked me up, and I told her, I was just like, oh, God, you know, I'm like worried, you know. I mean, he wanted me to, like, praise Jesus, and as soon as I told her the story, her and her friend just started laughing, and we're like, no, you're okay. And I just remember feeling so good to get out of that car. But, you know, so I've had many weird experiences like that, but most of them very good.
That's interesting how you found the silver lining in it. Like, really, like, you I don't know if it's just a product of your, you know, you've like, oh, well, I can be on the side of the road, or this guy could be banging my head against the car.
Yeah. And at the same time, what is it? It's like we're all learning in life, right? Like, how to get through life and what's the best way to get through life. And so many people are, like, out there looking for some sort of guru to, like, you know, drop down out of the sky and be like, this is the way you need to be. But in actuality, like, what I've found in hitchhiking is that life is the best guru in the world. It will constantly help you out. And the difference is some people look at it like they're, you know, it has to be just good experiences. Like, I will only listen to great experiences. And in actuality, it's not true. Like, the best lessons you learn are not fun. You know, life didn't tell you it had to be fun.
And so the most growth comes from the traumatic times. And we were just talking about being products of experiences before you came in.
Yeah.
So
What I was saying is, like, there's such a disparity, right? Like, people are so polarized when it comes to, like, their belief systems, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why is that? Why are some people believe so strongly one thing and other people believe so strongly another thing when we're all on a friggin' planet floating through space trying to survive?
I know, it's crazy. It's like, why, you know, it's like when you look at people's, like, what they like to do, you know? There's, like, some weird people out there, and they like to do some weird stuff. And like, if it's the same thing with, like, you know, life, like, people are like, I've found the path, you know, this is the way. And that's like the, you know, people are trying to, like, change you and, like, bring you into their path because, like, this is the way. But in actuality, like, everyone has their own thing. And in reality, if you just went with your own thing, like, you know, we always say to each other, like, you do you, dude. Like, you know, you do you. And it's like, if everyone just did them and they realized that their path is going to be totally different than everyone else's path, but everyone's path is generally the same. It's just like we're all trying to be better people. We're all trying to be, like, more in connection with each other and feel healthier and feel less of these negative emotions, or you know, and that, it's like
Well, we're saying, I think, like, a lot of it has to do with ego, right?
Yeah.
It's all like, if you can try to get, and you can't, I don't know if it's possible to get rid of the ego entirely just because it's so ingrained in our DNA, like in our society, right? It's like a product of, and maybe that's why when you said you met so many great people across America in, like, different places where, like, maybe ego is just not as big over there. Like, you know, like a small town in Wyoming, maybe people's egos are, like, far less.
Yeah, I see, and I don't think, like, getting rid of ego either is, you know, because ego is, you're born with ego. That's like it's like, you know, when you're 2 years old.
Were you really born with ego?
No, when you're 2 years old, they do a test, and the test is, you know, they give a bunch of stickers on the table, and there's one really cool, you know, if you're a guy, there's one really cool boy sticker, and there's all these girl stickers, and they say, okay, you know, and here's your puppet. The tester's got this puppet, and he says, okay, now this is how this works. You get to tell me out loud, you get to tell the puppet what sticker you like, and he's going to take that sticker, and then you get whatever sticker you want from the rest of it. Now, this test you do before 2 years old, You know, they say this, the kid looks at it and he sees the boy sticker, he goes, that's the one I want. And then the puppet takes it and he's like, oh, and then he takes one of the other ones. Now, after 2, all of a sudden, boom, they're like, wait a minute, I can tell this puppet whatever I want. So they want the one, but they tell him, I want the girl sticker. The puppet takes the girl sticker and then he takes the boy sticker and he's all happy, right?
They learn how to manipulate the system is what you're saying.
Well, it's like, that's the moment you're separate. Before that, the kids think that you know what they know. They don't realize there's separateness, and separateness is ego. So as you have ego, as you're gifted ego, you know, the apple of life or whatever, you bite into it and you realize you're naked and everything that comes from that, having ego. But it's not about getting rid of ego, because it's more about finding out how to use ego to make yourself more connected. And the beautiful thing is, when I get picked up, the thing I hear more than ever is people that say, I go, oh my God, thank you so much for picking up. And they go, oh yeah, don't worry. It's totally for me. It's my karma. I need some extra karma. So, you know, it has nothing to do with you.
Really, it's more of a selfish thing.
Yeah. So the idea is, why can't you use selfishness
to do good?
To do good. I mean, and if you look at karma, that's part of it. If you know you need to do stuff for yourself, like, and then you get this vibe over here, like, oh, this is I'm getting pulled to do this, and you're like, well, you know, I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff, and I'm gonna go and do whatever that is, because I know that's what I'm supposed to do. That's karma, or that's what my intuition's telling me to do. And now, if you do it in a selfish way, you can do just as much good. And I get that all the time from people, just karma, and has nothing to do with me, you know, which you know, and it's not showing they're like some great people or anything like that. Like, so I mean, it's a different way of looking at ego. I think LA ego is, you know, a little bit different than Wyoming ego.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but is that a product of just too many people and too much not enough space, like a scarcity of space, you think?
Or are you surrounded by, is it the tribal component? You're surrounded by ego, so you're...
Yeah.
Or you're like, yeah, or egomaniacs, more egomaniacs than create more egomaniacs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's like what you're, it's like what makes you feel good, right? Like in LA, it seems that like sometimes that whole feel good thing, like what actually makes you feel happy and good, sometimes gets blended in with the backdrop of like what table you're at, or where you can be, or what club can you get into without having to pay, or where, you know, or you know, what you can do, who's got a boat, who's got something to go like hang out on, who's got a yacht, or, you know, all these things that come into play you might not find that actually gives you any sort of real, like,
yeah,
anything. It's just kind of like, it's very anxiety filled as you get in the club and you're like, yeah, I got free bottle service, but you're in the club, it's so loud, you can't hear the person next to you, you don't have any good conversation with that person, but you did get into the club, and you did, you know, you do know these people.
So that feeds your ego.
Yeah, so now you're like, oh yeah, like I know these guys, I know these people, and I'm getting up there, and I'm on the world, but at the same time, you know, you've built no karma. Like you didn't take one of your, you know, the bottles as you got these bottles. You didn't pour a glass and go over to some person that came in that doesn't have bottle service and hand him a glass and be like, hey, you know, what's up, dude? Like, you look like you're lonely. Like, why don't you come in and hang out? And you don't, because the person will never hear you. It's just like boom, boom, boom,
right.
boom, and you never even think that way. So it's like, there's just weird things. Like, for instance, I'm driving. And I don't pick up everybody all the time, but when I'm driving, all of a sudden I'll get this weird vibe. Like, boom, I'll look over, and there's a guy sitting on the side of the road trying to hitchhike. So I'll go around, turn around, it's raining. I'll go pick him up. But the weird thing that happens is, like, a lot of times when it's this situation, when the person gets in the car, they'll say stuff like, this is so strange. I was just praying that somebody would pick me up. I'd given up. I've been out here for 8 hours. I was so distraught. I'd given up and just started praying when you picked me up. So it's like, what is that? You know, it's like, why do you think someone calls all this? Like, you're thinking about someone and they call you right then. Why do you look over when someone's driving next to you and they're staring at you in the eyes? You're like, whoa. You know, all these weird things that happen that are like, you know, synchronistic. What is that?
Or like when, like, well, I think it's the same as when you think about somebody and you're thinking about them and then they call you, right? It's like we are all connected. Like,
there is a collective consciousness as well.
What is the study you always tell me about, Parker? How mathematically is it neuron positive and negative electrons are at random And anytime there's a big sporting event or a big...
So you're talking about like the random number generators. They use like, and this is,
So random number generators are what?
So
there's like a
devices,
a supercomputer?
It's basically like, it's basically like a device that tries to randomly create two numbers, a 0 and 1, say. It's like, and
it's a supercomputer, right?
Not really. It's more like on the line of it's trying to read, and this is what I've heard, so I'm not quite sure, but it's trying to use the decay of an electron to make a random either 0 or 1. And it's supposed to be the most random number generator we have, meaning that at the end of all these, it should be 50-50, right? A probability normally as you roll a dice. It's just like that. So this is the most random thing we have, and it's actually, because it's based off the decay of an electron, it's actually connected to our reality, our world around us, in a very quantum physics way. So now they have these things, and then they end up placing them all around the world, and they find the strangest stuff starts happening at big events, like, for instance, Burning Man. When the man burns, all of a sudden these random number generators, the probabilities start skewing. So there's more, they can't explain it, and it happens right when the man burns. So then they have random number generators around the world, and they find that at the exact same time around the world when the man burns, all the number generators are skewing off at different amounts. And the same thing when the Super Bowl happens. And so they've been wondering, okay, well, what does this mean? What is it that all of a sudden you get more ones than zeros than should be statistically possible at the same time around the world with all these machines all going? Well, that's the big question. And the idea goes to say it's like, this is just a random theory, but it's like when you go gambling, right? You get in there, and all of a sudden, you know those people that are like, I feel it. And they like put all their money down, and they're rolling that dice, and it's just coming up, hitting every time, and they can't lose. They're just like, I'm like those moments. And gamblers talk about those moments where they're just like on it. And so it's as if like there's some sort of thing we have that skews our surrounding, and it comes from a feeling of like extreme confidence. When you have that extreme confidence and you walk in and girls are just coming up to you and they're just like, wow, like
so like the old NBA video game when you're on fire.
On fire, exactly.
You start shooting.
And sports guys, you talk to I'm sure you talk to LeBron James or any of those guys, and like, hey, what's the feeling you get when you know you're just on?
In the
can
zone,
just give me the
sure.
ball and I just put it up, it goes in. So whatever that feeling is, like, what is that?
And it's past your mind. It's usually not thinking. It's you're in the flow. It comes from the heart.
It,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't really recreate it.
Yeah,
it's got to just it happens.
Yeah. You try when you go to the casino. You're like, okay, breathe
Yeah.
in. I know I got this.
No. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I mean, and the thing is how you and how you use those emotions. What are those emotions? What are those feelings? And how you get more of those. I look at it like I can tell how happy someone is by just asking them, how many times have you thought to yourself, there's no place I'd rather be than right here, in the past month, in the past year, in the past week, because
that's a great question.
That's
a great question for everyone to ask themselves. Internal reflection.
Yeah.
Jeez,
and you get to see because I've been I remember talking to some people where I'm like, oh gosh, I was just on my property in the middle of Lockwood. I mean, I lived in the boonies, and I walked over this hill and it's this dry grass, but this one spot I hit, and the wind was coming up, and it was perfect temperature, and it was and it smelt great, and it was just a gorgeous view I was looking out on. And I remember sitting down and being like, wow, there's no place I'd rather be. And I remember telling one of my friends who'd been to the place, and it was like a worker of mine, and he said, he's like, oh my gosh, that you literally thought there's no place you'd rather be than Lockwood, than in this spot. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, no, this is it. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what club you got into or what bottle service you had or who you know. Anywhere you could be,
you can make happy.
Yeah, and
if you have internal happiness,
be in the present.
If you are
moment.
present, if you're having present, you're happy yourself.
But as you said, you can't make it, right? It has to come to you. So it's like, well, how do you get it to come to you? And this is where the key of the ego comes in. Some people think you get that by going into the club, by making sure you're meet the right people and keep climbing. And other people realize that, and it may be easier for people out in Wyoming that don't have those things that are constantly like attracting them to say, you know what, I just want to go on a walk,
Yeah.
And that walk is what got them to that spot. And that's where the difference of.
Did you think differently, much differently before you went hitchhiking these 2 times?
Yeah. I mean, I've made a million philosophical mistakes in my mind of like what I think the world is like, and then I'll just get them just crushed on, But at least I come up with a theory and I test it, and that's all that I've done. Since I've been in high school, it's just come up with different theories and then go out there and be like, okay, well, if this is true, then I should be able to stick my thumb up and everything will be okay, and then stick my thumb up and see what happens.
2 days later, someone gets you.
Yeah. And I'm putting the lotion on its skin. I'm like, okay, not that move.
No, but it seems like I've known you since, we grew up together.
Yeah.
But I do feel like you have, and it's infectious, right? And I remember your brother always used to say it. You can either be an energy giver or an energy taker.
Yeah.
And you choose.
Yeah.
Who you're going to be in this world, right?
Yeah.
And people because people are just suckers, or they give.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've always been an energy giver, but I feel like you and it's always inspiring when I hang out with you, because I'm always like, oh no, wait, just relax. I would. There is no place I'd rather be than right here, because this is the moment I'm at in life.
Yeah.
And here I am, and don't worry about all the other bullshit.
Yeah.
But did you? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I need to go hitchhiking. Maybe I need to go.
You almost went. Do you
I
remember
almost
that?
went.
I remember I was at your house and I was like, okay, like, are you ready? You're like, oh, and you like make some phone calls. You're like, I can't.
I know. I was like, I got business. I got work. I got stuff.
Yeah.
And that's like we are so conditioned to think like that.
Yeah, and you'll definitely
Absolutely.
get touched on the way up,
Go fuck yourself. No, but we are like we're so preconditioned to be like, this is what we got to do. We got to do. Oh, my parents told me I got to do this, or I got to do this, or I'm expected to do this.
Yeah.
And to let all that go, like, how freeing is that? Like when you hit that open road, when you left your parents.
You can't imagine it. It's like I was doing television shows, and I had a company I started with my brothers, and I was having like back problems and sitting in front of a computer.
Sitting, right?
Yeah,
oh
and
my
like,
gosh.
and I didn't know, like, it was all this different stuff, and I was worried that I was going to put my backpack on. It's like this 60-pound bag, and then it was gonna make the issue even worse. But like the moment I stepped out on there, it was just like so nice. And then like within 4 days, I didn't even think about my back. And it wasn't until weeks later that I realized like I had no back problems anymore. I had like no issues. And I was I felt the best I ever felt. And I'm eating shit and, out in hitchhiking, living under, bridges and stuff. But feeling great, like feeling just so happy and content. And there was more times hitchhiking that I thought to myself, there's no place I'd rather be than any other time in my life. Waking up in some bushes and there's a frog like right next to my face on some leaf, and just sitting there like, this is so trippy, like, what am I doing here? Everybody else is like in the rat race, and I'm sitting on the side of the road right now.
Being a human being.
Yeah, but just stoked.
Just being.
Yeah.
Look, think about it. Like I hear that from so many people. Oh, I have such back problems. I have this, I have that. It's like, well, what do you do? What are you doing every day? Oh, you're sitting in front of a computer and you're bending your head down and you're typing and you're like full schmeagling your back, you're just like putting yourself in this awkward, terrible position. Like humans aren't meant to be in those positions.
Yeah. And you can do that. You can still be healthy. I mean, the back thing I think is more of a like you're not happy. Like you're not happy. And then there's no one that can it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to try this and try that. But it's like, no, in the end of the day, like you're not happy. And if you're not going to do something for yourself, and it can be completely crazy enough where everyone around you says, you're stupid, giving up this really good paid job for this shittier job, doing something that just no one would expect you to do. That is like
freeing.
If life was about money, if that was how you got happiness, then why wasn't Donald Trump stoked? Why isn't he like feeling great and like in meditation pose all the time? Like, you know what, everybody is okay and we all need to be happy. No, money doesn't do anything. So like it is only comes from the decisions you make. And if you're not happy, staying in it just so you can have the money is not, you give up that and you go the opposite direction, and you don't know what will happen. It's a leap of faith, and you might fly, you might fall and hit your ass, but at least you took the damn jump. God,
Yeah, it's a pretty bad cycle we stay in, and I can't remember who it is. Who's got some great quotes about money? It'll come to me. But to work at something you don't love doing, to continue to work at something you don't love doing, to get more money, to continue to do that.
Yeah.
Like, that is
I know, it's so crazy.
asinine,
I know. You're
right?
like,
when you think about it.
I know, it's so crazy that people are like, oh, well, I'm going to make enough money so that I can
continue to do this.
Have a better 2-week vacation than I did last year. It's like, oh, God.
Well, and back to presence, you're not being in the present moment. You're putting your happiness in the future.
Yeah, you're hoping that
Always. And the future's anxiety, and the past is depression.
Yeah. And the people that tell you, oh, you're crazy to leave this job, you're crazy to do this, you're crazy like, fuck you, who are you taking advice from? Like, other people are unhappy and they're like, advice is like not a great thing to listen to from people sometimes.
And that makes a huge point, because before I went hitchhiking, everyone, including my parents, my dad came up to me and was just like, look, I just talked to your mom, she's going to bury me alive if I let you go hitchhiking. So, if you want a flight around the world, I'll pay for it. I was like, no, I don't. I'm good. He's like, well, okay. Well, how about a bus trip? I'll pay for a bus ticket anywhere you want to go, any state. I said, no, I'm good. He's like, well, how about you can, I'll pay for hotels. I said, no, I'm good. It's like, look, I'm not doing this I'm not doing it to be safe. I'm doing it to not be, and I don't know why, but I'm getting pulled to do this, and it's my thing, and I have to do it. But when it comes to people, everybody else, they would all say, you're just this crazy. I don't know if I could say this online, but these guys had a party, and the big joke was that they were going to put a big jar in the middle of the door, and as all my friends came to the party, it was going to be called the Parker's Butthole Reconstruction Party, and they were going to take a picture of my ass before and then recreate it once I got home and after I'd been taken advantage of, and so everyone says it's a stupid idea. And I remember one person, it was my college roommate Brendan, his brother. Their family had come up, and I had gone out to breakfast with them, and I told a bunch of people I was going, and I tell them, and they all kind of look at me like, oh, and Brennan looks at me, or Jono looks at me and says like, that is a great idea. You're going to have the time of your life. That's the best idea I've heard all year. And I was just like, I remember hearing that and being like, oh yeah, like, heck yeah. And the idea comes to say that there's always going to be a couple people that get it. And now what I do is I don't do an idea unless everybody thinks it's a horrible idea. Because it's like, and then you talk to that one person, you find that one person who's done it before, and they're like, yes, do it. And they're like, don't worry about shit, just send it. And that's the thing about anything, doing anything scary. Only the people that have actually done it are the ones who are actually stoked about everyone else, to do it. But it's definitely,
we have a problem of doing that. Like, and I'm guilty of it too. It's having decisions by committee. Yeah. And you're like, you go around, you ask what you think, what this person thinks, I'm dead.
You get everybody.
And you're like, and then you're more fucked up from when you started. Just like, you gotta follow your gut. And someone was asking me the other day, they're asking me some like relationship advice. Like, I'm A and not the person B ever answering this. And I said, nobody can tell you when enough is enough. Yeah. You only know your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's the key. I mean, the other thing is like, yeah, you ask people how many times they've, thought there's no place they'd rather be than here. But also ask someone, how do you, what is it that signifies that you need to do something? Like, what is it that makes it you follow your gut? Like, do you have a sign that comes to you? Is there like a feeling that you feel, and whenever you feel that feeling, I got to follow this gut feeling? Like, people don't have them. Like, and that's what, to me, it's crazy, because think about, like, I always look at it like, I look at all kinds of different possibilities, but what if there's you on the other side, right? And you're trying to like pull the strings, like, hey dude, this is what you got to do. You know, there's your ego you that's like, all like, oh, I know what I need to do and I need to make money and I need to survive. And then there's this other part of you that's like this kid you that can't really speak English but can send you vibes. And that kid is like smart as shit. And he's like the one you meet when you're on LSD. Well, that kid's trying to like send you signs to like go this direction. But so many people are blind to it, they don't even have a way of communicating with them. Like for me, I have like certain ways, like, you know, when I go hitchhiking, if I need to go one way, I say, okay, well, make sure this person says to me, they offer me food, or, you know, make sure that you show me this thing 3 times in a row. And if I see it 3 times in a row, then I'm good to go. So all these times that I'm like talking to that other part, like, okay, this is a gut feeling. Now I'm nervous about taking this gut feeling because I don't want to jump off this cliff just because I have some like philosophy of every time I feel like, you know, and I just have to poop or something, and I'm like, shit, I just.
Oh, now I feel better.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. Yeah, now I'm in someone's basement. But so the idea is that, like, what is it? And people just don't do that, you know. Like, people are so caught up in religion and praying and stuff, and it's like, well, how do you follow your intuition? What is it that you do? And what do you do?
I quiet the mind. I agree with you completely. I just have different words for it. So I would call it higher self, and through a meditation practice, then I can just calm the mind and kind of tune into that energy.
Nice.
But we were talking about Paul Walker before you came in, and about how transformative he was in my life. And after he died, there were so many synchronicities that came about that were just leading me in certain directions. And they're there if you're listening.
Yeah.
You know?
And the word synchronicity in itself is such a perfect way of following your intuition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gut is important. Very. And I've lost it too. I used to follow my gut a lot more. I think I overthink things. I work on that. I need to work on that. I work on it in meditation.
Yeah. And I mean, people always say meditation too, and it's like, just to throw this out into the ether, meditation is great. It's a great tool. But you can't, you don't make decisions really in the moment while meditating. You're walking down the street and it tells you to go right. You're not meditating while walking down the street, unless you've figured out some way to bring your way of calming the mind into your life. Then you find it very hard to do these drastic things. And so I always stress to everyone, like, come up with clever ways to bring meditation out of your bedroom.
Sure. It's also, I think it's hard too. Like, we are this thing,
phone,
this fucking piece of shit phone. It counterintuitively changes your gut, right? Because if before we had these things, you would go with your gut more because you have to. You had to go with your gut. Hey, which way are we gonna go? Let's just go that way. Let's do this way. Let's take this longer road. Let's take the long road home.
Yeah.
Now it's like, where I don't even know where I am anymore.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend thought she was a master map person. I thought she was a master at directions, and I was like, okay, well, turn your phone off. Let's see where we go now. It's like, well. So no, Siri is a master at directions.
Yeah.
You are not.
You are not. Oh, it is. I remember when I moved to LA. I moved to LA when I was 18, and I was going to college, and I was actor. I was trying to figure it out, and there was no smartphones. There was you'll remember this, TomToms, the book that you had legitimate grids, and you had to flip through like E9, to see rest of E9, go to page 97, and so I had to actually learn the city, right? So I know this city very well. I can get around pretty much anywhere. You tell me, where it is, I can get there without the phone. Without the phone. Now, sure, like I'll look on the street address and use the phone to find out where it is, but if I don't need it, I don't need it. Yeah. And I think there's like something lost in that. Like people don't know their own surroundings anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, people didn't know their own surroundings even before. I mean, just like those people that have that like understanding, and people that don't. Like some people are interested, in like driving down random roads. Have you ever get that? Like some people just like,
let's just check it out.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, and it's like, okay, well, hey, I've never been on this spot, and then you like kind of like piece it into your global map of like, okay, this is here.
Sure.
And some people just don't even think that. It's weird.
But yeah.
Wow.
It's a weird thing, but I think that it does affect our gut, right? Like gut decisions. We can look up everything. Well, let's look it up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like, I mean, it's like how you, everything is like a game. I always, that's what my perception of it. It's always game. I make everything into a game. Like even gut decisions into a game. Even picking people up on the highway into a game. And the game needs specific things. For instance, sometimes I'll if I'm walking back by myself, I'm going somewhere. I have all the time in the world. I'll pick up like a leaf, and I'll say, okay, well, I've got an hour to spare. Whenever you blow this way, I'm going to go left. Whenever you blow back, I'm going to go right. And I'm just going to get lost. And the idea is that I'm training my gut. And how I do it is by following this leaf, and I'm going left and right, and I'm getting random directions and getting lost. I'm now getting rid of my ego's control over where we're going. I'm getting more relaxed and just letting life guide me, this like blowing of the wind. And then I find in those moments, that's when I start getting other weird, strange things coming, like, hey, well, maybe you should go sit on this bench. And I'm like, okay, I'll sit on the bench. And then I sit on the bench, and then they're like, well, you should say to this person, that's walking by that, to ask them about synchronicities. Do they know about synchronicities? And I'm like, this is really random, but I'm gonna do it. And I'll go up to this group of three, and I'll say, hey, you guys ever hear about synchronicities? And they'll all just stop, slack-jawed, and be like, oh, I was just telling them about synchronicities, and they were telling me I was full of shit. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And that's a true story.
So how do you do that? How do you train your mind to do that more than someone like me? Because I have moments of that, but like for instance, today, I just called you. I picked up the phone. I called you. I said, you were coming to drop something off. And I'm like, hey, how do you feel about being on my podcast? And you're like, cool. Sounds like a plan. You are not as sucked into, I need to be somewhere at a certain place at a certain time as I feel like a lot of our friends or a lot of people that we interact with.
I was just talking about that the other day, and it's a joke. I mean, you got to realize that does two things. It either makes it so I cannot be friends with a lot of people, and then it makes my other friends who know me really well, they just expect it. But at the same time, what it allows is that every moment is completely can change in any direction, and you're not, and then you have to come over this understanding that it's okay.
Your expectations, right?
And even when you get to that end point, when you get really good at it, the end point, those people that you were supposed to meet at the right time and you didn't get there at the right time, they had something that backed up, and then you guys get there perfectly, and they're like, oh, this worked out perfectly. And that starts happening so much that you calm yourself, and you're like, okay, no stress, but you still stress out. But I mean, like, but you
and your brother are very different. Remember yesterday or 2 days ago, we were going to meet your brother, and he had all these timelines and time frames about everything to meet somewhere.
Yeah, but I think that was his wife wanting to, she just got off work, and she was, hence why I sent her that text of, it's all okay, Jenna. We can't wait to see you. And
no, but you're different than your brother in that way.
Yeah,
you are different. You are, and it's just different personalities, I guess. I don't know, but it's it is weird how like this 24-hour clock really is like a prison for us, right? Yeah,
it's worrisome.
It's super worrisome all the time. It's like, oh, the time, and this and that. And I got to be here, and I got to be there. And I'm looking at my clock right now, and like 10 people have called me in this last hour, right? Like I've got 25 text messages and 10 people to call me, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this.
There's a story. There's like a thing that I always like talk to people, and they say like, and following your gut, you can ask someone, how, if you were to go back and tell me exactly your routine every day, most people can tell you their exact routine. They wake up, they go to the bathroom, they brush their teeth with their right hand, they then do this, they then shower, they shampoo, they condition, they get in the car, they eat their food or whatever that they got on the way, they stop at Starbucks, they drive. And that whole process that they do is so routine, is so stuck that that's, say, an hour of their day, and then they drive there. They don't even remember driving to work because they've driven it so many times. And that's an hour and a half of your day that it doesn't matter if, life smacked you in the face with like a gut feeling to take a right turn and go down this side street. You wouldn't see it. You wouldn't even go down it even if you knew it was, because you don't have a reason for going right. You're like, no, this doesn't make sense to my plan. I already have this all planned out. This is the way I do it. And so that is what I tell people the most is like, You don't need to, you don't need to meet a guru. You want to change your life? Start by brushing your teeth with your left hand, okay? And then walk down your stairs backwards, okay? And then don't go left when you find a different route to go to work. Just change it up just a slight bit. Just get out of the routine. And what it does is it actually forces your brain to start working and to start. You don't sleep through your drive. You don't like forget what you did. You're then like, oh no, I was there. I was awake. And while you're doing this game, I call it a game of doing different things, it allows your gut to then take over. Now you're like playing a game. And now when it says, hey, take a right turn here, you get that feeling. You're thinking, oh, this is part of my game. I'm just going to do something a little different. And I'm taking a right turn here. And then as you take that right turn, boom, you run into someone who's like pulling out and they look at you and they're like, oh, it's you and it's you. And then you guys start talking and you're like, this is exactly what I needed to meet at the exact time I needed to meet them. And it just needed to take that right turn to meet this person that changes your whole life.
Sure.
And because
there's like a lot of factors that kind of, I think, inhibit us from doing things like that. Like, say your significant other, right, is like expects you home at X amount of time every day, right? And then you're like, well, I'm gonna take a right turn, and like then you meet somebody and you get into a conversation with them, and you're gone for an extra hour. Yeah. Like, where are you? Why weren't you home? Blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Like people we're so obsessed with.
Yeah.
Like,
but sometimes life has restrictions for a reason. Like if you're supposed to get home at that time, don't play the game. Get home at that time. Like I've got a dog and I have, like I want to go just travel the world right now with a backpack and I could just like cruise and, I have all the money in the world. But no, I have to, I have a dog. So I, decided to get a van and then keep him in the van. And it's not that he is restricting me. It's that he is making sure that I'm doing the gut feeling. He's been sent here for a reason, and if I make the right choice, I can get you, you can learn all the secrets in the world from one flower. It's everything you look at, every place you go, no matter the situation or how horrible or how great it is, you can learn everything you need to learn in that situation. So it's not about time or anything like that. It's just making an intentional decision to not to not plan 5 steps ahead. Just figure out a way to play a game where you're just planning 1 step ahead. And just play that step. Look at that step. And then make the next decision to make a step. And don't have it planned. Don't worry about, the whole plan. And then if it fails, like say, for instance, you need to get home at 10 o'clock and you play this game and you get home at 10:30 and it creates this whole horrible thing, then don't do that again. It's not meant for, then it's not true. But if you do that game and it takes you on some wild journey and you get home and you don't get that person yelled, that's a test. And if that test comes true where it worked out perfectly, then like that's a sign. You're doing something right. And that's how it is. I remember there was a Dalai Lama came out one time. It was like, people were like, I want to become a Buddhist. And he's like, no, we have enough Buddhists. We don't need any more Buddhists. You need to find you. Read everything you can and be you. You can join the religion if you want, but you don't have to follow and to understand it.
Sure.
And he said the thing about Buddhism is it's scientific. It's like if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. So test it, and that's it. That's life. Just test it. And that's why most people that are Christian, it's like so damn serious sometimes with the Bible. It's like shit. It's in the Word, and then everyone's describing the Word differently. But however they describe it, that's
all
in the
religions
Word.
Though, not just Christianity. It's all religions. I think there's extremists on all sides.
Yeah,
and it is weird. It's like the finding you, right? The finding you first. But that's what everyone's trying to find. Everybody that is whether people are actively doing it or working on it, but I think we all feel that loneliness, that loss, that why are we here? And
I guarantee if you don't feel weird at all at any point of your day, you're not going to find it.
Yeah.
Because weird is something you should cultivate. You should be embarrassed half the time when you're walking down the street because you should not walk in a straight line. You should kind of, shuffle to the left, shuffle to the right, kind of step backwards, step forwards, do a little bit of weird, like
be weird. I like it.
Yeah, and
be weird.
That allows you to find your gut. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Scott, you are very weird. I can. You definitely know how to get weird.
Well,
Sam,
man, I wish you the best on your journey because you're going.
We have a dog under the
dog.
table if we're hearing a tap,
hold
tap,
on.
tap.
Yeah, Sam, you good?
Yeah,
Sammy
sit down.
boy.
he's a good dog. I wish you best on the journey, man. And I
Yeah.
can't wait to come and meet you down at different parts of the Americas.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I've heard some horror stories of people that have gone down the same path spiritually and stuff that have had crazy shit happen to them. So I'm hoping that that's not my next stage. I'm hoping my next
don't
stage
listen to
is-
that. That's like, you can hear horror stories about going into Compton here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
like,
Venice
it didn't-
Beach for that matter.
Venice. I mean, you could have, that's what you bring, right? That's like, who are those people telling you those things? They have
Yeah.
bad energy, good energy.
Yeah, no, it's me being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
No, man, it's another growth. It's another.
Yeah, it's a.
And sometimes it's good. Darien Gap, maybe be a little cautious.
Yeah, and everybody, it's interesting, no matter what country you go to, no matter where you go to, especially when I've been traveling, is that everyone always says the next place is worse, right? So everyone's like, oh, dude, you're fine here. Even though you've heard that this place is the worst place ever, you get there and you're like, oh, it's not too bad. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, this place is fine. But the next place you're going to, oh, that's horrible. And then you get there and it's like, this place is great. And
Well, that's
they're
like tribes. That's tribes, right?
Yeah,
You're
they're all-
you're afraid of the unknown. People
Yeah.
are afraid of the unknown.
Yeah, that's why they always talk about travelers and places that are kind of remote. They're like saying like, hey, treat the traveler like very respectful. Even in the Muslim, religion, they're like really big on treating travelers with respect. You can go out to Iraq and, when you show up at a town, they even let the soldiers in, overnight. And then they say, okay, but we're still enemies. Like when you leave, you're no longer in our protection. And that's the thing that's crazy is like there's something about travelers where they bring stories that are of bringing us together. When you talk about how that place wasn't that bad, like that calms so many people's nerves, and makes so many people more open to like go interact with them and to, and that's why I would go around the U.S. and I'm like tell the people in the South, no, the North is amazing. You guys should go up there and try it out. And then people in the North, I'm like, no, the South is great. The sweet tea was a little sweet, but it's,
No, man, the fear is real. The fear is so real,
Yeah.
and that is what causes us to be divided. And
Yeah.
it's like that's why people who travel, like yourself, who like literally you're a earth walker,
yeah,
we have more perspective.
yeah.
You get a deeper perspective of places you go, people you meet, and then you're not afraid. You appreciate every culture, every religion.
Yeah.
You appreciate it, and you say, "Yeah, that's their reality. That's their," and there's amazing people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I still say, I'm still afraid. It's just more like the gut line. Like, if I get a gut feeling that I'm not supposed to do it, I'm not going to do it. But if nothing's stopping me, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm supposed to jump, and then you jump off.
And you have the courage to fight that fear. Fear
Yeah.
is the source of all negative emotion.
Yeah. That's a good way of
And
putting
the
it.
cause of all our problems.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thanks
It's
for
awesome,
inviting
man.
me
I'm excited to check out the rest of the journey.
on. Yeah, I know. I'm excited to
Are you
do
public
it.
about the journey? Do you have an Instagram or a blog that you post all this stuff
my
on, or is it for
Instagram,
yourself?
yeah, I'm gonna start it up. It's I usually do it for my mom, so she can
All right.
not freak out. But it's on Parks Trail Tale is my Instagram, and then it'll, I'm not quite sure what the .com will be. It'll probably be Parks Trail Tale again, but
Cool, man.
but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Look forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
Thanks for having me on again, guys, and keep on keeping on.
That was a good talk with Parker.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, man.
He's
I can't believe I
super
met him
cool,
after all these years. It was nice to finally meet him.
I know that's crazy to meet him. He is really like, he's an earth walker. He's a searcher. And I really appreciate that. He's really bled into me and like given me some of my DNA. I feel like he's really had a big, profound effect on me. And just being calmer, not letting this and the business and all the craziness just being like, no, like,
Yeah.
I'm gone. I'm out.
That's right. Taking
Yeah.
care of myself.
It's good. Taking care of yourself. Be selfish. Be selfish and then be selfless. If you're selfish, you can take care of yourself and then you can be more selfless to other people.
And without both, you don't have the energy for the other.
Exactly. So anyways, I'm going to be going to Bulgaria. I got to do some work. Got to go make this movie to do, what I love, man. Got to go create.
I love it too.
But what are we gonna do? Are we gonna do podcasts every 2 weeks now?
Yeah. Yep. So we'll switch up to 2 weeks because you're a busy man.
Yeah.
We've got some great stuff coming up. We have who do we have here? We got Rhonda Patrick.
Oh, Rhonda Patrick, she's the best. Who else we got going on? Rhonda Patrick. We already did John Rose. He was cool.
Yeah,
right?
he's cool, dude.
Super cool dude. We got Tanner Faust. Oh, Matt Farah. That was cool.
Yeah,
Did
Tanner and Matt.
pop on? Yeah, Matt.
Yeah,
popped on.
yeah.
That was
he
awesome.
popped in. Matt's the smoking tire. Tanner's
Yeah.
professional race car driver and stunt driver and things.
Yeah.
So we got lots of cool stuff.
Lots of stuff.
It's gonna be dope. Sex with Emily.
Ooh, sex with Emily.
You like having sex?
You know,
Sex
who
is
doesn't
good,
like having
man.
Sex is healthy.
You need it.
We shouldn't be shamed either about sex.
Nah.
It's like such a weird culture sometimes we live in. Like it's like no, like what?
And it's such an American thing.
It is. You go to Europe and it's like no, like sex is like totally
the nipple's
normal.
free.
Let the nipple be free. Oh, what is all this crap I hear about people not wanting people to breastfeed?
Yeah.
Now
No more nature.
no more nature. Just okay. Don't feed your child.
Maybe that's a way to sell.
Like only in private. Like what? Like I mean, what's wrong with these people?
There's so many babies on both sides.
So many babies.
Just snowflakes everywhere. And I don't mean that liberal or conservative or anything. It's just like everybody's sensitive.
Just stop
as fuck.
bitching.
Yeah.
Like a titty. Oh wow. Guess what? You sucked on one when you were a kid.
Absolutely. It's
And
why
maybe
you're
not.
alive.
Maybe when you were an adult too.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
If you're lucky. Right.
If you're lucky, you know. Let that titty be free. Oh,
Cool, man.
Yeah, people piss me off. But anyways,
Enjoy
great.
the movie, bro.
And
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Cool.
All right.